And it's 10 a.m. here in Lagos. Good morning and welcome to Business Morning. I'm Ladi Williams.
Good morning. I'm Ini John McQuarrie. Welcome to the show. Well, let's start with updates from the world of business. Oil prices rose today, recovering from previous days' losses as investors sought bargains and on expectations that major producers will not boost supply soon, though fears of weaker global demand amid surging pandemic capped gains. Brent crude was up 13 cents to $69.64 a barrel after falling 1.5% yesterday. U.S. oil climbed by 14 cents to $67.43 a barrel, having lost 1.7% the previous day. OPEC Plus believes oil markets do not need more oil than they plan to release in the coming months, despite U.S. pressure to add supplies to check an oil price rise. U.S. shale oil output is expected to rise to 8.1 million barrels per day in September, and that will be the highest since May 2020.
And back here, the Federal Inland Revenue Service says it lost up to 17.69 billion naira to tax evasion in 2015, as it could no longer be couldn't trace some company addresses. According to the FIRS, the amount of unrecovered taxes comprise value-added tax, company income tax, withholding tax, education tax, and National Information Technology Development Levy. Meanwhile, the Senate has directed the executive chairman of the agency, Mohammed Nami, to go after the defaulting agencies for recovery of the money and remit it into the Consolidated Revenue Fund within 90 days.
Well, we'll look for how they'll do that in 90 days. That's about 3 months.
Yeah, it's quite a short time.
A short time, but like one of our guests said yesterday, we have a lot of technology and innovations now.
Yeah, with technology,
so we hope they will deploy that and get that in 90 days.
Exactly. With tech, you can do anything. Yeah.
Well, in other stories, the African Export-Import Bank is planning a $40 billion finance to support the African Continent Free Trade Agreement for the next 4 years. Other interventions by the bank include a $300 million transit guarantee scheme, which aims to facilitate the movement of goods and services within the African region. The manager in charge of intra-African trade at Afrexim Bank, Temwa Gondwe, is hopeful that the initiative by both bodies will increase the continent's market potentials.
Our intra-African trade financing, as a percentage of the bank's total assets, currently constitutes about 30%. And I'm glad to report that during the past 4 years, Afrexim Bank has dispersed about 20 billion in support of intra-African trade and investment, $20 billion. And the bank plans to make available $40 billion in intra-African trade and investment financing over the next 5 years, twice the amount it has dispersed for the same purpose over the past 4 years. Thank you. And then we also have a number of initiatives that were rolled out. I've already said that you have received that information in your packs. But I can talk about the Africa Trade Gateway, which is 6 different digital solutions that have been merged into a super platform. That digital ecosystem will give you the Pan-African payment and settlement system, which we'll talk about in greater detail during these 5 days. The African Customer Due Diligence Repository Platform, a trade information portal, a trade regulation platform, the Afrexim Bank Collaborative Transit Guarantee Scheme, and the FCFTA Adjustment Facility.
And the Bank of Industry has launched an information and communication technology hub in Kaduna State as part of efforts to tackle youth unemployment in the country. The technology hub is part of the bank's corporate social responsibility initiative to promote skills development, youth entrepreneurship, and job creation in new technology and innovations. Speaking at the event, the chairman of the bank, Aliyu Diko, says embracing technology and infusing it into business processes will make organizations and the country more competitive, adding that the technology industry can be a major pillar of a diversified economy. Do take a listen.
The Bank of Industry officially launches the Vertebra Tech Hub to the public in Kaduna State as part of its corporate social responsibility initiative to promote skills development, youth entrepreneurship, and job creation. Kada Hive is a technology and innovation center in the state. And the idea of the hub, which is sponsored by the Bank of Industry, is to improve technology adoption across the state. The hub is commissioned by the Kaduna State Deputy Governor, Dr. Hadiza Balarabe. He commends the Bank of Industry for supporting the state industrial and technological sectors with both funding and skills.
In this state, we believe that investing on the youth in technology is the surest path to creating a safer and more prosperous future.
The chairman of Bank of Industry, Ali Udiko, says the overall objective is to ensure that the bank's corporate social responsibility investment generate better benefits for the country, stressing that a hub like this one gives young people the opportunity to create legitimate wealth.
The bank-sponsored hub is a platform for young people of Kaduna State to channel their ingenuity, creativity, and passion to productive and impactful ends rather than social vices.
According to the managing director of Vertebra, the technical partner of Bank of Industry, Kada Hive is set up in recognition of the ingenuity and creativity of young people in the country. And this is also for the need to channel them to more productive and impactful end.
This is actually the 5th hub that we're setting up with the Bank of Industry. We've trained over 3,000 youths, introducing them to STEM and the opportunities that technology has for them.
This is about youth, it's about technology, and this is about employment generation in terms of having people who can pursue their own dreams and ideas in technology.
The BOI says it plans to build the Nigerian startup ecosystem as it believes that the technology startups are becoming major economic value creators in the 21st century. It also hopes that this trend will accelerate, especially as artificial intelligence, robotics, and many others become part of everyday life.
Now this is more like it, right? We want the best quality ingredients when we cook. When it comes to salt, we care less. We say salt is salt. Well, I care about my salt. It goes into my food and my body. And that's why I use Dangote salt. It's time to care about your salt.
You're welcome back. Well, after more than a decade, the Petroleum Industry Bill, now a law, has been signed by the President, Muhammadu Buhari. This is in spite of controversy in some sections like allocation of 3% revenue to host communities in the Niger Delta, while a fund for the exploration of oil in frontier basins, mostly in northern states, received a 30%. But the bill is now a law. And like some industry stakeholders say, there may be need for amendment in the future. But having a law, I mean, a lot of people have said is better than no law at all. If you watch News at 10 last night, you'd have seen a whole lot of opinion on that. There will be need for amendment in the nearest future, but at least now we have a law. So this is what we'll be discussing, or a major part of what we'll be discussing, but that will be right after. Okay, so though we see this will affect, how will this affect communities, markets? How will this affect subsidy that has been a major part of the conversation in a whole lot of time? Well, we have Dumebi Iyeke. She's an analyst with Financial Derivatives Company, and she's joining us to share her thoughts. Hi, Dumebi, good to have you again. Been a while.
Good to have you. Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, welcome back. So, are you expectant? Do you have high hopes with the PIB?
I mean, it's something that we have been keeping our fingers crossed, you know, for, like you said, over a decade now. It's about 13 years. This conversation has been up since 2008. But at the end of the day, there are two main things to really look at. We look at the timing of which this is happening, and at the same time, we look at the impact of this on the commodities market. We look at the impact of this on Nigerian people, because yes, there's PIB, people are hearing, the PIB has been signed, but at the end of the day, how does it really affect me? What's really my business with the PIB being signed? So how is it your business is when we look at the element of subsidy and the regulation of the downstream petroleum sector. Now, what does that mean for myself, and what does that mean for you? It simply means an increase in the price of PMS. Now everybody's ears are ticking. Another increase, how, So basically, with the deregulation of the downstream petroleum sector, it simply means that the price of petroleum-related products, and especially PMS, will now be cost reflective. So every cost, from the importation of crude oil, from the production of crude oil to the refining, to all of that cost is going to be reflected in the price of this product.
And landing cost is about 200 and...
Exactly. Yeah. So by the time we, put the retailers' margin or the marketers' margin, that again will increase the price. So on an average, you're looking at the price of PMS, let's just say, without the effect of anybody, without the effect of labor, we're looking at a PMS price of about 300 to 380 naira per liter. So the big question now is, how much more can people take? Because at the end of the day, even if we say the truth of the matter is that yes, this is good for the sector. It's especially the fact that we're taking steps to do a lot more to attract new investments in the downstream petroleum industry. But at the end of the day, how much more of these reforms can people take? Because we're not only looking at an increase in the price of PMS, we're looking at this, we're also looking at an increase. Yes, even apart from that, we're looking at an increase in the price of electricity again. So there's so many things hitting the Nigerian consumer all at once.
But I mean, yes, we're looking at the price of, obviously, with PMS goes up, everything goes up, transportation goes up, food goes up, everything. Inflation that we're even talking about, tapering. But if we don't do this, there's also a price to it.
Of course, that's why I'm saying that at the end of the day, this is a good step in the right direction. But like the second thing I wanted to address is the timing. Now, let's look at what's happening in the entire world when it comes to fossil fuels. Or the world is already moving away from fossil fuels. We're moving to renewable energies, moving to cleaner energy. So it's like we're attending a party when everyone is leaving. That's exactly what is happening. So yes, this is good in its sense, but at the same time, we need to attract new investments in that particular sector. So who exactly is going to take up this role of new investments in this sector when everyone who is going to be a potential investor is looking for investments in renewable energy?
But really,
even
down
to getting a degree, down to getting a degree for petroleum, for people who study petroleum engineering. Right now, if you go search, you want to do a degree in, you want to probably further your education, what you'll be seeing now is renewable energy, energy management, to tell you that the world is, the world is fast transitioning away from that. Not only that, we have the European banks have already made an agreement. No more loans, no more financial to fossil fuels. So if they have made that, because they made that decision in 2019, which is going to take effect this year, if they have made that decision, it simply means that other banks, like the World Bank, like the Asian Development Bank, could follow suit. So what does this really mean for Nigeria, who is just getting into that space?
But maybe, do you want to kill our joy? Because
we're
saying at least. I mean, they say it's whenever someone wakes up, that's his morning. We need to start from somewhere. This is where we are now. And I mean, some people did say oil can never really go out of need. You're still going to need it. So can we just celebrate this?
African countries are still
so here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? We're celebrating it, but the truth of the matter is that we can't close our eyes to what is happening globally and around the world. Ghana, right now, is buying back its oil licenses. That's what's happening with Ghana. So to tell you that it's not that this isn't a good step in the right direction. I mean, this is good news, so to say. But at the end of the day, what is happening, what we're doing right now, is it very much obtainable in the global space? And if we're going to do this, how fast can we play catch-up to what is obtainable in the globe. Because at the end of the day, this bill is supposed to attract new investments in the downstream petroleum sector. And the potential investors are moving away from fossil fuels. So how are we going to attract them if we're just signing a bill to deregulate the downstream petroleum sector? And they are saying, if I'm going to put my money, I'm going to put my money on clean energy.
Wow. Anyway, we see oil prices actually rose
No,
today.
but before we move away from that, our reality is that the bill is now a law.
Yes.
And we expect that it will become, implementation will begin real soon.
Yes, that's another thing.
Yeah, and so when we look at that, for instance, we are looking at inflation figure. We were supposed to be out since yesterday.
Yes.
I mean, we are still awaiting the NBS on that. FDC said it to be 17.5.
Yes.
Now, by the time subsidy goes off, we expect, I think the natural reaction is prices will certainly go up.
Yes.
So what would now happen to this tapering of inflation that we're seeing? You know, what will happen in that
All the projections.
Okay, yeah, so there is the, before I get to that, there is the, there's a lag effect, right? There's a time difference between when a policy is implemented and when it really takes effect in the market. So yes, there will be initial market reactions, but not until we begin to see this policy, you know, these policies become implemented that we can say, oh, this was going to happen. But in the meantime, we're saying inflation is going to decline. The decline trend is going to continue. Why? Because harvest season is already upon us. So with that effect, when seasonality takes place, the expectation is that supply increases and then prices fall. But you know, obviously, even though we can't sideline the impact of the fact that the planting during the planting season, when we weren't able to plant as much as we should, insecurity and all, we're still keeping our fingers crossed. Say, okay, there is still that possibility that the harvest season will taper prices. But like you rightly said, when all of these policies begin to take effect, when the PMS price increases again, when the new electricity tariff, you know, takes effect, we will see, you know, that have an impact on transportation. And then, you know, the market, the woman selling the fruit to the market will definitely affect this in her prices. And then the truth of the matter is that income is really not increasing. So that's, you know, another, you know, hit to the consumer disposable income. Right. So at the end of the day, people will be spending more and getting less. So that reality is still there.
All right. So what's happening in domestic commodities market right now?
Generally, we're seeing a mixed movement for some prices. So right now, we're seeing that some fruits are in the market and their prices are, you know, declining, while some prices are, you know, just skyrocketing. For some other domestic commodities like yam and all, we're seeing new yam is out and price of yam is, you know, declining. The price of rice has remained relatively stable. You know, price of beans is still really high. You know, so there's still that mixed movement of domestic commodity price in the market. But like I said earlier, we're expecting that the harvest season will, you know, to an extent taper commodity prices.
So I believe your projection of the inflation figure, 17.5, is based on that, the harvest season.
Yes, it's based on that.
Okay, and we're waiting for the NBS Bureau.
Anytime now, it should drop at some point.
And then oil prices went up today.
Oh, yes.
U.S. is asking for a boost of output. OPEC is saying there's no need for that.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no. It's no longer news that the oil markets is generally moved by sentiments. Once the U.S. is saying this, or China, or something is happening with China,
and China
or
has restrictions
exactly.
on.
So when we see all of those things happen, we see the oil markets react. The truth of the matter is this: there is the impact of the Delta variant, and how that is really affecting Asia and some parts of Europe, and this is definitely having a huge impact on global oil demand recovery, particularly from China and India as well. So all of this is negatively affecting oil prices. Now, the debate on whether output should be increased or should not be increased is just all in a bid to regulate prices. OPEC is, you know, trying to be very conservative in their boost in output. Whether, you know, earlier in the year, with their last meeting, they already said that they're expecting that all demand, would be optimistic, So, and in that regard, they're going to subsequently, increase oil output. So, but at the end of the day, with what they're seeing now, there's the reality of fact that this Delta variant is really wreaking havoc on oil demand, and they're trying to, cut back
what about
on
vaccination? I mean, people like the British, they are doing well in spite of the figures because they're very confident in their vaccination program.
So, but at the end of the day, there's been lots of news on the fact that the Delta variant, and I think there's another variant that's out now. All of this they're saying that it's building some level of immunity towards the vaccine. So even those that have taken the vaccine, they're still required to take coronavirus preventive measures. So at the end of the day, this is the vaccines, everything that's going to, is still a work in progress. So people just need to, stay clear of, avoiding the preventive measures. If you need to wear your face mask, please wear your face mask. Social distancing, wash your hands regularly. So that's exactly what's happening. But at the end of the day, we can't negate the fact that this is having a huge impact on oil demand recovery. And if oil demand recovery is affected, that will definitely affect prices. And if prices are affected, that's going to affect, if we bring it home, that's going to affect Nigeria's external reserves and all revenue and all.
So we should just expect volatility.
Yeah, exactly.
Going forward in major markets.
Exactly.
All right, Dumebi, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
Thank you.
Dumebi Iyeke is analyst with Financial Derivatives Company. Thanks a lot, and enjoy the rest of your day. So we'll take a break now. When we come back, of course, we have another conversation. Just stay with us. It's Business Morning on Channels Television.
Welcome back. Now to our next conversation. The Federal Inland Revenue Service has appealed the judgment of the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt, which issued an order restraining it from collecting value-added tax and personal income tax in Rivers State. The court had directed the Rivers State government to take charge of the collection, and this has generated another line of conversation, which we are following up now with Adeyemi Adediran, partner at Anderson, Nigeria. Great to have you on the program. Good morning.
Good to have you, Mr. Adediran.
Thanks for having me.
So what is the impact of this ruling on VAT collection and the federal government's drive for revenue generation?
Well, I would say it's interesting that this is not the first time that the court will be ruling on the constitutional validity of the Value Added Tax Act, right? Just last year, there was that Ukala versus FRS case where the ruling was similar to the Rivers State ruling that we received some few days ago. The main thrust of this is that the collection of consumption taxes is not in the exclusive list of the Constitution. Therefore, I mean, saying that the National Assembly really doesn't have any legal competence to enact laws for collection of consumption taxes. And that's the main thrust of the conversation. And then if you're looking at the impact of this ruling, right, if it's sustained, just last year, the federal government collected about 1.5 trillion in VAT. If you look at the way the law has said VAT should be shared, 15 to the federal, 50 to the states, and then 35 to the local governments. If you do 15% of 1.5 trillion, that's about 225 billion naira, So if this ruling is sustained, what that means is that the federal government has the possibility of the federal government losing about that amount, if you translate that to the current year.
What about the cost of collection?
Yeah, the cost of collection is 4%. It's not included in the 15%, right? Now, the challenge, again, from what you just said now is that the state may not be efficient, enough to actually collect these taxes. So collecting 225 billion may be a tall order if the rule is reversed. But this also brings to fore, the conversation about federalism, that has been held on other spheres of the government. So it's interesting to see how this will unfold, because I see it going to the appellate court, that's the Supreme Court,
And you talked about the impact it will have on the federal government. Obviously, the federal government will lose that amount of money. The state stands a chance of getting it if they can manage. But what impact does it have on the taxpayers?
Well, for the taxpayers, really, the question really right now that many taxpayers are asking, is certainty. One of the canons of taxation is that, okay, you have to be certain of the tax that you are to pay to the government, and the government too is also certain of the tax to collect. So right now, with the case unfolding, many taxpayers are saying that should we collect or continue to charge VAT,
right.
Or not. But I understand the Federal Inland Revenue Service has appealed the judgment, and they've also submitted an application for stay of execution. So, as it stands, if the application of the FIRS is granted, then taxpayers can continue to charge VAT. But everyone should monitor development in this space and see where it leads.
So, but if this judgment is sustained, wouldn't it create some kind of inequality among states?
Yeah, like you rightly said, that's a great question, because not all states are on the same level in terms of economic activities. Right. But I think it will also drive efficiency, because every state has something to offer. If you go to Plateau State, they have a lot of agricultural activities going on there. Lagos has a lot of commerce going on. Rivers State has a lot of oil and business going on there. So every state has something to offer. So I believe that if every state gets to that point that, hey, I'm going to actually eat what I kill. In other words, I'm going to charge VAT on what is consumed in my state. I think those conversations in terms of how do I improve the efficiency of the state's economy will begin to come up, and I think at the end of the day,
cap.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it sounds like what we should pursue. That because we've been talking about diversification in the economy. So states know that they don't have the opportunity to go to Abuja and get. So don't you think it would do us better?
Yeah, in the long run, but in the short run, some states are already used to getting money from the federal government. So in the short run, it may be some form of challenge, because they are not even prepared for the collection of these taxes. So it will take some time before everybody sits up and say, hey, if I do more and enact laws and I'm more efficient in the running of my state, I can actually get more money, So it's attractive in the long run, but in the short run, those challenges will still be there.
Okay, what is the possible impact for, on taxpayers and actually ease of doing business in Nigeria?
Yeah, so, like I said, taxpayers want some form of certainty, in terms of, what I should collect from. I'm an agent of government when I'm charging VAT. So if I'm selling my goods to my customers, I want to know that, okay, can I charge VAT or not? And then if this conversation continues, some states may say, okay, if it's vested on me to charge VAT, I can then look at maybe I can charge 4% as opposed to 7.5% to attract economic activities to my state. So depending on the way the judgment goes, the impact of taxpayers will definitely be felt.
So that means if this judgment is sustained, there's going to be a wider conversation that might need a lot of legal backing. So that, like you said, a state doesn't just wake up to say, oh, I can decide to take 10% VAT.
Exactly.
I can decide to take 2%.
Yeah. So those conversations will definitely be held, because right now, collection of VAT is centralized, and there's some form of sanity in terms of collection, and administration. But by the time this is divulged to states, then they have authority to enact their own laws, And at the same time, there may be some political conversation so that we don't run into some chaos.
But from your point of view, which one do you think will pay Nigeria better?
At this point,
Well, what I would say is I'm up for efficiency, whatever is going to drive efficiency at the state level. But at the same time, there are benefits to central collection, central administration, and then sharing the revenue. So there are pros and cons depending on which way you look at it. But definitely, if the states have power, to enact their own laws and collect VAT, it will definitely drive some efficiency at that level. But there are also benefits for central collection of these taxes. Okay,
so what other areas do you think the tax authorities should focus on, in order to meet revenue needs?
Yeah, for that, you would notice that our tax to GDP ratio has been 6% for some time now. And if you look at our economy, like the informal sector contributes to about 80% of employment, in Nigeria. So I think the focus should move from companies and institutions currently paying taxes to the informal sector. It's not like the informal sectors are not paying taxes, but they are paying multiple taxes, and some of those taxes don't get to the government.
Right.
So streamlining these taxes and using technology, to be able to cover as many taxpayers as possible will go a long way. And don't forget also the social contracts. The more people see what the government is doing with the taxes collected, the more they are encouraged to pay more.
Yeah,
that's another conversation.
That's a very big conversation that we've been having for a long time. And
Absolutely.
we have not been able to, because yesterday we talked about tolls coming back. And like one of our guests said, Nigerians would really not mind if the tolls were there, but we actually see what the funds are being used for. So also, if you have a conversation with a lot of Nigerians, they'll tell you they really don't mind paying tax, but what is it being used for? The one I paid last year or last month, where is it? Then I'll be happy enough to pay the next.
Transparency.
Absolutely. Okay, but there was a 56.56 increase year-on-year VAT collection when you compare the 512 generated in the second quarter of 2021. Does this signal an improvement in the tax collection system, or did this just happen?
Well, yeah, of course, I'm sure the FRS must have put in some effort to increase VAT collection, but then I'm not sure 2020 is a good year to compare because, I mean, there was COVID, there was decline in economic activities, and then there was NSAS at some point. So definitely, if you compare the activities in 2020 to 2021, you're expected to see some improvement. Then if you look at inflation rate in 2020 vis-a-vis 2021, 2020 was about 13.28%. And in 2021, we are looking about over 15.9% average, in 2021. So when you factor all of that in and the exchange rate, right, the value of what was collected in 2021 may not be the same as the value in 2020, knowing that, government collects these funds and some of it is going to settle foreign loans. So when you convert based on exchange rate, the significance might not be wide, but it's still some kudos to the FRS for improving the collection.
Because I wanted to ask you, are you saying we should not, don't pat yourself at the back and say that you had an increase? It was just the situation at the time.
No, I'm saying that, they've tried, but you still need to do more, because if you consider all these factors, right, it shows that, even if you do ×2, you probably need to do ×3 of what you collected last year to be able to meet your obligations,
And we still have that issue where the Federal Inland Revenue Service confirmed that companies with untraceable addresses evaded taxes to the tune of 17.69 billion. That's a big amount. What aspect of the system, should be changed to, cover these loopholes?
Well, I think if you look at the tax laws, we have very robust laws, respect to penalties, for tax defaulters. But I think what needs to be, we need to pay more attention to is implementation. And if you look at what the FRS alluded to, this loss in revenue is people simply changing address. So what you then need to do to solve that is use of technology. You've identified that there are companies that have defaulted in paying taxes. So for you to be able to identify those companies, that means they were registered with the CAC, for instance. They had principal officers, for instance. They didn't transact business with themselves. They transacted business with third parties. So who are these third parties? These are questions that if you have some form of digital tool to trace the economic activities of these companies, you'll be able to go a long way in actually recovering these taxes.
These questions you have raised seem to support conversations going on that it's not like these problems cannot be solved, like you said. I mean, these guys, they are transacting businesses with people, so you cannot get them directly, you can get them through people and all that. And I don't think Nigeria is such a backward country that you don't have records. We do have records, but perhaps it is actually the people in the system who would want to compromise, for one reason or the other, because that's part of the conversations that we hear when it comes to tax.
I would say that for you to, collecting taxes also comes with some cost, right? For you to collect taxes, you need to spend some administrative cost, So one of the things technology does is to reduce the cost, that you would use to collect these taxes. So I would say that if the Federal Inland Revenue, they've done fantastic work in terms of improving their technological tools to pursue and collect taxes. But I think more improvement needs to be seen in that area, to capture more people and bring more people into the tax net.
When you say more improvements and more people, what exactly do you mean? Are there some systems? Are there some computers that ought to be deployed?
Kind of tech,
if you look at, in the past 2 years, what the FRS has done, there was this project Lighthouse that the FRS embarked upon, trying to get details of taxpayers and all that. So the FRS has a lot of data. I think what needs to be done now is what we call data analytics, interpreting the data. Okay, now you know where I stay, you know what I do. What does that mean in terms of tax collection? Bear in mind that even if I trade and I make money, it doesn't mean that I have a taxable income. I could be making losses. So the mere fact that I'm in business doesn't mean that I have tax to pay. So you need to go a step further than collecting information of taxpayers to interpreting what that data means and then be able to use that information to prioritize the taxpayers that you go after. Because you don't have all the money in the world to go after everybody.
Right.
So you have to do some prioritization to say, okay, if I look at all these taxpayers, if I go after 20 people, I may be able to get more revenue. So some kind of intelligence has to go into.
What about connecting? We have BVN, we have NIN, we have the passport, we have our driver's license. Wouldn't that also?
Yeah, that's what I mean. How do you integrate all this information, to be able to achieve your intent in terms of collecting taxes from people or from companies, So that's what data analytics is about. You have the information, but you need to interpret it and make it useful to you for your purpose.
All right, so moving forward now, how do you see tax collection, in the near future in Nigeria?
Well, I think Nigeria has done great, in the past 3 years. Our tax laws before 2019, the last time we updated the tax laws was in 2007. But currently we have a system in place where the tax laws are reviewed annually. I think that's a fantastic initiative, so we've gotten that right. I think the next step is to now take those laws and see how do we efficiently implement them, and how do we compare with other countries of the world? What are they doing with respect to digital economy, because prior to now, taxes were collected. You have to be doing business in the country, and I have to see you physically to collect taxes. But now, businesses are done without physical presence, So we need to continue to evolve, look at our laws and enact laws that are consistent with the times, and then develop tools. There's this conversation to say that who is the accountant of the future? Is it an IT person who has a bit of accounting or an accountant who has a bit of IT? So right now, technology is the way to go. And I think the FRS and we all can do a whole lot with technology, and that will reduce our cost and increase our tax to GDP ratio.
I really like that conversation. Is it an IT with a little bit of knowledge of accounting or accountant? But, the 17.69 billion that we're talking about, the tax evasion, they have 90 days. Now, when you talk of this technology, and new ways of doing things, do you see them meeting up with that 90 days? Or do we just take this is another news item that we will talk about and later we'll drop it?
Yeah, so there are questions, I think that report came from the Auditor General of the Federation, right? There are questions as to, okay, the taxes that are to be collected, are they final and conclusive, or are they estimates? Because I would assume if these taxpayers have changed address, they've not been filing returns. You don't have access to their records. So at best, maybe the taxes to be collected are estimates. So what the FRS needs to do is to first dig deeper and establish whether those taxes are actually final and conclusive. And when it's final and conclusive, then you can then begin to engage the taxpayers. Remember that the tax authority, if the tax authority says, okay, you owe the government 20 billion in taxes, it doesn't necessarily mean you do owe the government 20 billion in taxes, because you have to have time to object and to respond. It's when we both agree or the courts rule that these taxes are final and conclusive, that the tax authority can legitimately go after and recover these taxes. Then, in terms of collection, assuming the amount is established, does the FRS have the manpower, the resources, and the tools to actually recover these taxes within 90 days? I think your guess is as good as mine.
Well, just before we let you go, is there anything that can be done to make paying taxes more attractive?
Well, that was what I said about the social contract. You know, in other countries, right, what you do in order to improve tax collection is to focus on voluntary compliance, because you can't go after everybody. You don't have the resources to go after everybody. So if I look at the social contract, which is you pay taxes and I as government will deliver social amenities, you know, then if we both stick to our side of the contract, then there will be improvement in voluntary compliance. There will be reduction in compliance cost. And the government will have more money, you know, to provide all these amenities that we seek. So I would say that as much as the government is doing a lot in terms of enforcement, in terms of audits, you know, it should go alongside with encouraging people to voluntary compliance. If we get that right, you know, we'll be able to have all the money that we need, you know.
Yes, we all have a part to play in this matter.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Adeyemi Adediran, partner at Anderson, Nigeria, and sharing your thoughts with us on tax policy in the country.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
And you too.
Okay, so we'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll head to the markets. Do stay with us. We'll head straight to the markets now. Domestic equities markets opened the week with negative sentiment. But we'll get more from Anita Edets.
Yes, good morning, Ini.
Good morning.
Yeah, like you rightly said, the markets, it opened the week down slightly, just not much, there's no need to panic, because it just fell by 0.4%. And this comes a day after, you know, a report came in that the Nigerian stock market beat its contemporaries last week. Last week we saw 4 consecutive uptrends, which made the Nigeria stock market to record the best return on equities investment against its global counterparts. But as of yesterday, this is what the market came out with. 0.04%, which is, in value terms, it was 9 billion naira drop in market value. That, of course, is because there was profit taking in some equities, but those were just the mid-cap and some lower-end equities. But then, of course, we had a positive market breadth, 25 gainers against 15 losers. Now, take a look at the sectoral performance. It was quite a mixture there. Three reds, 2 greens. That's the red was in the banking, as you can see there. And then, of course, the value and the volume of shares transactions were in the red, but the deals was much more, it was still in the green. So now to tell us more about what happened at the market, especially in the start of the second trading week of August, let's talk to Rotimi Fayafakajo, who's a trader at the stock exchange. So good morning, Rotimi.
Good morning.
So, yeah, thanks for joining us. So, can you give us an update of what happened at the NGX yesterday? Yes, it's been posting positive sentiments last week. And then, of course, what should we expect today?
Well, the negative change in the market yesterday in the Ocean Index was was marginal, and I believe it can easily be overlooked vis-a-vis what we saw in a week that ended on Friday. And I think we may not really have to dwell much on that, because I believe strongly that the fundamentals of the market still stand very strong, and the investors' mindset toward the market is still very much positive. And looking at the week, I still believe that yesterday was too early to judge what it could look like, and I believe strongly that the trading of today will definitely fortify more confidence in investors as time goes on. So I think with the way it is right now, trading has started, and I believe that going forward, the volume that we're going to see today and the value will be much more than what we saw yesterday. We saw just about 1.6 billion, and also the trend in the market may turn out positive, and that definitely will expected better than what we have seen so far. So I believe strongly that the month of August is definitely going to, a great extent, erode the negative market to date position of the market, of the NGX. And I think we will be entering into a positive line by the time the month ends.
Okay, so thank you for that update, Rotimi, and we'll keep optimism high for the market. Thank you. So that was Rotimi Fakajo, stock trader at the NGX. Just like yesterday, not much time. Once again,
I guess time flies when you're having fun or when you're making money.
Well, we are making money. So far, the exchange has gained more than 317 billion naira in just 4 days, and we are hoping that within this week, the uptrend, which is 2.5% year-to-date, month-to-date return, we will keep our optimism high for that.
Yeah, we certainly will, as Mr. Fakaijo advised us. Thank you so much, Anite. Well, now let's give you a bit of what's happening in the United Kingdom. We start with UK jobs vacancies hit a record 953,000 in the 3 months to July. According to the Office for National Statistics, unemployment fell to 4.7% in the 3 months to June, down slightly on the previous quarter, while average pay rose 7.4%. The UNS says that payrolls rose by 182,000 between June and July, although at 28.9 million, it is still 201,000 lower than before the pandemic. The number of people on payroll has now grown over 500,000 in the past 3 months, regaining about 4/5 of the fall seen at the start of the pandemic. Still in the UK, demand for train travel seemed to be on track to bounce back to pre-pandemic levels despite lagging behind car use. The Department for Transport figures show the number of journeys being made by train in Britain is approximately 57% of what it was before the coronavirus crisis, while car use has fully recovered. Before the COVID outbreak, the rail network saw a surge in demand from commuters during weekday mornings and evenings, but it was often quiet during other periods. I believe Laddie Williams is ready now to give us updates from the crypto space. Hello, Laddie.
Hello. Well, we have a pullback. We had a green weekend, Green Friday. Now we had a green Monday too, and a red Tuesday. Just profit taking at the end of the day. We see Bitcoin, Ethereum, and major altcoins all in the red there with minor pullbacks. Market cap is now below the $2 trillion mark. It's down 2.97%. 24-hour volume, $120.10 billion, up 3.67%. Bitcoin dominance, 43.66%. Price Bitcoin, $46,000. It's down about 2.73% this morning. And we see the chart there. We see that drop from the simple moving average. Volume zapping out on the 1 hour chart. And we have the MACD cross in the bearish territory. It's not oversold yet, so we might still see some pullback. Price of Ethereum, $3,171. It's down 3.28%. 24-hour volume for Ethereum traded this morning, $22.95 billion. Top alts by market cap. We have BNB there, down 13.21%. Also, Dogecoin at 32 cents. XRP now below $1, down about 10.97%. Shows what happens in the market when Bitcoin sneezes. The major altcoins also go down. We see top 5 gainers. Audio there, up 126.93%. Audio is a streaming streaming platform. And we have Luna. All right, let's bring in Romeo Fina. Hello, Romeo. Hello, Romeo. Good morning.
Good morning, Lali.
Great to have you. Well, we see a lot of blockchains, you know, in the crypto market. We have XRP, Hyperledger, with Ethereum blockchain. Do you see some kind of blockchain war at some point with the protocols?
Yeah.
Hello, Rumi. All right, since we lost our rumor there. Okay, well, we see audio there up 126%. This was trading about about $1.20-something cents, and they had that big TikTok partnership there. That's what news does this market. We see it up about 126.93%. Big move there from Audis. Solana is up 16%. Near Protocol is up 9%, and we have Polkadot there also in the top gainers, up 9.09%. Top 5 losers have FTT, the FTX token for the exchange, $47 down 9%. XRP is down 8%, and VChain down 8%. And we have XLM also down. We know how XLM follows XRP in the market. So we have that pullback today. It's not bad. No need to panic.
Yeah, no need to panic. It's just an opportunity for some people to enter the market.
Exactly.
And before you know, then we'll come back.
Have a recovery.
There'll be a recovery. All right, well, that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. At 1:30, Business Incorporated will be up with updates from the world of business. To join us then. But it's bye for now. I'm Ini John McQuarrie.
And I'm Ladi Williams. Thank you for watching.